From Red Zone Weather in Bruton, Alabama, with meteorologist Spinks Meganson. A tropical weather update starts right now.
Fred, currently a remnant low pressure area in the southern Gulf of Mexico, but the system is expected to re-strengthen into a tropical storm that will approach our local area as we get into the early part of this week, specifically on Monday and Tuesday. Good Saturday evening to you. I'm meteorologist Spinks Meganson, and we're tracking Fred this evening, and we're tracking Tropical Storm Grace. We're going to talk about both of these systems. Grace is a long way away from our local area, closer to the Lesser Antilles, but Fred is now in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and this system is expected to get its act together as it continues to move to the northwest gradually over the next day or so before approaching our area late on Sunday into Monday. A landfall is likely in our local area as we get into Monday and Tuesday, and so we're tracking Fred likely to make landfall early this week. We probably will see tropical storm watches go up for part of our coast. This has been a significant forecast change over the last 24 hours because if you remember, the cone was way over here, the cone of uncertainty, and now it's right over our local area, meaning significant local impacts will be possible. And when I say significant, we're talking heavy rain, maybe a few tornadoes and gusty winds at the coast. So here's the cone of uncertainty, the latest one. Right now it extends from Venice, Louisiana, all the way back over to around Mary Esther and Fort Walton Beach in Florida. The National Hurricane Center currently calling for a landfall near Dauphin Island, Alabama. And if that particular track happened to be right, it places nearly all of our area in that eastern quadrant of the storm that will feature a few tornadoes, gusty winds, and of course heavy rain and flash flooding. Now keep in mind, more forecast changes are possible, especially considering that Fred does not have a well-defined low-level center this evening. In other words, until we get that low-level center back on the board, you still may have more forecast changes with this cone of uncertainty shifting back a little bit to the west. But this evening, Fred remains disorganized, and that's due in part to all the land interaction that the system has had over the last few days with Hispaniola and then Cuba. But also you've got a sustained amount of shear in the atmosphere that continues to rip this system apart. You see this spin north of Fred out over the eastern Gulf. That's an upper level area of low pressure that's imparting some shear over the top of the system around that broad counterclockwise circulation. But look at this. I mean, Fred is just a total mess this evening, and that's what we like to see. The system is weak, and there is no low-level center. There's sort of a mid-level center of circulation in through here on the northern side of Cuba, technically in the southeastern Gulf at this point. We'll go ahead and zoom in. This big blob of clouds on the south side of Fred is where the strongest thunderstorms are currently happening. Just to get your geographical bearing straight, this is Cuba down here, that is Key West, that's the Dry Tortugas, and so that would be the Florida Keys. The center, or at least what the Hurricane Center is calling the center of Fred at this point, is right in through here, just to the north of the Cuban coastline. And over the next 24 hours, it looks like a new low-level center of this storm is going to form on the northern side of this complex of storms before moving off to the northwest and ultimately taking a turn to the north. And the reason it's going to turn is because there's a weakness on the side of this subtropical ridge of high pressure that's going to help guide Fred more to the north compared to the northwest. Looking at the wind fields for this specific storm, it's not most likely going to be a hurricane at landfall. Confidence is very high at this point that Fred will be a sheared, lopsided system, and that's depicted in the wind fields here. You can see that most of the stronger wind gusts up to tropical storm force are in a very small area near and just to the east of where the center of circulation will be. And so keep in mind, if the center of circulation happens to be a bit farther west, there's a real chance that our area may not have much in the way of significant wind impacts. And when I say significant, we're talking in excess of 40 miles per hour. What I do think that we will have is a good bit of heavy rain across our local area. The latest quantitative precipitation forecast is indicating in excess of 5 to 6 inches of rain, especially along the eastern part of our area. I wouldn't be shocked to see numbers come up across the rest of our local area. So let's get in there and look at one of the models. This is how it may happen, and I want to call your attention right up here above my head. That is when this image is valid. So you'll see that change. That's called the timestamp. And this is valid on Sunday evening going into Monday morning. Fred likely to be just to the south of our local area. And again, notice there's your circulation right in through here, but most of the convection and most of the rain and thunderstorms would be on that eastern side. You can see that places like Panama City, Port St. Joe, areas near Apalachicola back up to Seaside could have very heavy rain on Monday. And then across our local area, again, depending on where that center of circulation moves in, it looks like many communities across our region could have heavy rain at times, flash flooding, maybe even gusty winds near the immediate beaches. And so let's put this in motion one more time for Fred. And again, you see this system down here right now in the Gulf, but it's going to move to the northwest before lifting off to the north. And again, this is one model, and so this is one idea that the National Hurricane Center looks at when making that cone of uncertainty. But in addition to Fred, there's actually more to the story, because by the time we get into the middle part of next week, we also will have to be watching that. That is Tropical Storm Grace, expected to be in the southwestern Atlantic, perhaps near or just to the north of Hispaniola by the time we get to 10 o'clock on Tuesday night. And the current forecast for Grace does bring the system into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. More about Grace in a minute, but we got to focus on Fred first, because it is the imminent system that could bring our area impacts on Monday into Tuesday. So let's talk about the impacts specifically. Flash flooding is most likely going to happen along and east of that center point. In other words, where the storm makes landfall. So let's say hypothetically that Fred makes landfall at Dauphin Island. That means that a big chunk of our area is going to be involved in this zone where you could have 4, 5, maybe even 6 or 7 inches of rainfall, and that of course can lead to flash flooding. There's the latest QPF quantitative precipitation forecast. Wouldn't be shocked to see these numbers over West Alabama come up as the QPF gets more data in regarding Fred. This doesn't exactly account for that latest track shift that we saw in the projected path. And so again, 5, 6, maybe even 7 inches of rain not out of the question. In addition, maybe a few tornadoes across our local area. You can see that we all have this low-end tornado risk. And let me mention, back on June 19th, when Tropical Storm Claudette was moving across our region, we had that EF2 tornado that barreled through parts of East Bruton, Castleberry, Kirkland, this part of Conecuh and Escambia counties right in through there in Alabama. And that is an anomaly. Most tropical tornadoes are weak and very short-lived, but that tornado was a good example of showing us that sometimes you can get these more significant tornadoes. You got to have a way to receive the warnings on Monday into Tuesday, just in case we happen to have a few tornadoes across our region. And of course, we'll be with you every step of the way if we have tornado warnings. Here's the Storm Prediction Center's convective outlook. Maybe a few tornadoes tomorrow down here, basically from Panama City points south down to Tampa, kind of on the outer fringe of Fred. Could have a few water spouts, maybe a few brief coastal tornadoes. And then on Monday, SPC has nearly all of South Alabama and all of Northwest Florida and the Florida Panhandle in their level 1 risk, and that's in place exclusively due to the developing tornado risk. Wouldn't be completely shocked if we needed a level 2 risk in here to account for the potential for tornadoes on Monday, really into Tuesday as well. But if there is a bit of good news, it's that Fred is likely to not bring high winds to much of our local area. Now, you could have strong wind gusts down around the coast, especially at the Alabama and Northwest Florida beaches, 35 to 45 mile per hour winds, but inland, I think we're going to be A-okay. Yes, it's going to be breezy, no doubt. It's a tropical storm moving through, no shock there, but I don't think we're going to have sustained hurricane force winds or anything like that. Now, in addition to Fred, this is Fred, but we're going to take off the satellite data because that is Tropical Storm Grace, located very near the northern Lesser Antilles and coming into areas near Puerto Rico. Grace is going to continue moving west and ultimately northwest, and the latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center does bring this system into the southeastern Gulf as we get into the middle part of next week. In fact, that point right there is valid on Wednesday. And so, yes, we're dealing with Fred, but there's another one right behind it. Too early to know if Grace will be a plausible issue for our local area. But again, I know it gets exhausting. Trust me, I do. I lose a lot of sleep over this stuff. But please keep tabs on Grace in addition to Fred over the next few days. Tropical storm warnings up for Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands. In addition to some of the Leeward Islands, already got a tropical storm watch for part of the Dominican Republic. We will see more tropical storm watches and warnings for the Dominican and also Haiti. Haiti had a bad earthquake this morning. I have seen unconfirmed reports that 300 people plus have passed away in that magnitude 7.2 earthquake that happened there in Haiti, and unfortunately, more bad news for the Haitian people, as it looks like Grace is going to basically cross Hispaniola. Mudslides will be a big concern in Haiti and the Dominican as we get into really Monday and Tuesday. So unfortunately, more bad news for the folks there in Haiti as Grace moves by. And by the way, back behind me, you see Hurricane Linda. That is not going to be a concern for any part of our local area, but I did want to mention this. This is a Category 4 big-time hurricane out here in the eastern Pacific. Look at this. I mean, it doesn't get much more classic than that. That is a textbook major hurricane. There's the eye, of course. You got your eye wall right in through here. Linda is near peak intensity right now, and so Linda will not be a concern for any part of the southeastern United States. It's actually moving out to sea, which is a good thing. But again, we'll be watching Linda over in the eastern Pacific. And so again, this evening, the focus is on Fred. Yes, we've got Grace to watch, but right now the focus is on Fred because this is the system that may bring potential local impacts to South Alabama and Northwest Florida on Monday night into Tuesday. That's when your time frame is, really from 2 p.m. on Monday to 2 p.m. on Tuesday. That's your 24-hour window when we think that most of the impacts will happen in South Alabama and Northwest Florida. So that's the latest on the tropics. I do want to go over to the radar briefly because we have been tracking some storms across the region over the last few hours. First, let's zoom in here to Northwest Florida. Terrible lightning over the last hour in parts of southern Okaloosa and Walton County. Still got some lightning involved in this heavy rain down here near Choctawhatchee Bay, along Highway 98, coming into areas near Santa Rosa Beach and Seaside. We're also seeing some potent storms this evening in Butler County along Alabama Highway 10 and Interstate 65 near exit 142. That's the Fort Deposit exit near Priesters. Big storm coming into areas near Forest Home there in Butler County. We're also seeing some storms fire up in Escambia County, Alabama this evening. This is Highway 31 right here. This is US Highway 29. These storms are drifting southwest into Appleton. And all these storms that I'm showing you this evening, by the way, are well under severe limits, but they are producing loud thunder. Also seeing some developing storms this evening in parts of Clark and Washington counties near the Highway 84 corridor and also near Alabama Highway 17. That runs there between Milry and Chatham. We did have some storms earlier today in parts of coastal Alabama. Those have since gone away. Of course, you have the Thomas Rhett concert ongoing at the Wharf there in Orange Beach this evening. Right now, that concert is dry, but we are watching some rain just to the east and really to the north of there as well. We'll watch those storms and bring you an update in the Red Zone Weather app over the next few hours as we continue to track the pop-up storms of summer. So we'll continue to watch Fred. Next update going to be posted in the morning in the Red Zone Weather app and also, of course, on Facebook as well. Plenty more shorter form updates going to be posted in the app over the next few hours. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And of course, please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to those in just a little bit. Have a good evening, and I will see you soon. More updates coming in the Red Zone Weather app.
Be sure to find us across social media, and don't forget to download the free Red Zone Weather app and set up your customized alerts. Please support our Red Zone Weather sponsors who make our coverage possible every single day.